just dismiss it. Like if now I of course, when you go through a training, you learn kind of what to pick up on. Whereas before, maybe I wouldn't have known, because some of them are subtle, some of them are obvious, and some of them aren't. And, when I get friends that will call me and they're like, man, I relapsed and this and that, and they'll start kind of leaning that way of, no future, no light at the end of the tunnel. And they'll say, I just, don't want to, and I'll just flat out just ask them, like the training, are you thinking about suicide? And I don't joke around with it. I take it serious, and they know when I'm asking that, and the reaction that you get from that really tells a lot as well, which of course I learned in the training. And I've had a guy say that to me. Yeah, he was, and I went and picked him up, and we went and talked, and he's still alive today. So that's good. And it doesn't matter if somebody says it a million times, you have to take every time serious. And
there are some people who, struggle at more than one time in their life. And there are some people who may struggle once and then learn some coping skills that are able to self-direct them in future times of maybe despair. So absolutely. It sounds like you really got a lot out of the trainings, which is always our goal. Mm-hmm. And to be able to even help just that one person, what a payback for the investment of time you made. It's incredible.
Yeah, and if I didn't
go
help him, I could have been like, yeah, whatever, man. He said it like 1,000 times now. But then that one time, that wasn't going to be on my watch. I wasn't going to. Nope. If he said that, I asked him, he said yes. I wasn't going to just say, well, you might want to call the number. I was like, I'll be right there. And then I gave him the numbers and all the stuff, and if he wanted to call them when I wasn't around, he could, have a conversation with just a complete stranger if he wanted to have it with me. But being able to be there and to do that, it was very rewarding. And I think that helps us in recovery too, like when we help other people, when we feel that sense of, like we were talking
and making
earlier.
Sure that, someone, if you couldn't have gone to him, but making sure that he did get connected to those right resources, making sure, that follow-up of did you connect? Are you online with the hotline? Are you going to the hospital? Is someone going to be able to be with you? Because like you shared, just giving a number isn't enough if you think there's a real worry, but sometimes you're physically unable to be with that person. Mm-hmm. So I'm really glad that you were able to, because that shows him in the future, if that person's ever struggling again, you're someone to go to. What an incredible gift to give someone.
And thank you for letting us do the training. And a lot of people, I think, believe that if they tell someone, hey, I'm thinking about taking my own life, I'm thinking about killing myself, that they're going to immediately end up in what they would call the nut ward or some kind of mental hospital. Now, that's not necessarily true.
No, that's not necessarily true. Are there some people who need inpatient care for a time period? Yes, there are some. But there's no such thing as a nut ward. There are places where individuals who may be struggling emotionally or mentally with their mental health that just need that time to be able to learn some different skills and process through whatever they're going through. But honestly, the majority of time, individuals are able to get set up with someone who can help them process through that does not require an inpatient visit. So, it's like putting the horse in front of the cart. We can't automatically assume that there's something that's going to happen. Instead, we need to say, let's see what is the best course of action for this individual. So that's why it's so important to bring a professional in, to have them take that second look and say, yes, I'm a friend. I've talked with this person. They seem like their mood's starting to elevate, but what do you think? None of us have that. I and you do not have that degree. So having someone to be able to come in and do that professional to cover that is absolutely an on-point thing to do.
And because I was in the mental hospital quite a few times. So surprised.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing at all. And in some cases I learned, well, you know what, maybe I'm not as bad as I thought I was. Because, it's one of those things where I'm just fortunate not to be as bad as some. But there were things that I did need to learn in there that just, it didn't even make sense to me. That, I don't know, one was just silly. He was like, well, your problem is I can fix this all. I'm like, what? He's like, start making a list. I was like, I'm sorry? Like, make a list. You got 80,000 things going on in your head. Write them down. Make a list. You can't accomplish all of them in one day.
It's amazing how just getting things out of our head can take a lot of the power away from them. Mm-hmm. So sometimes we have all those things swimming around in our head, and we keep thinking about them, and they're so powerful. But then when we start processing through, whether it's writing them down or talking with someone about them, then it becomes doable if we just break them down into what can I accomplish today? What is a doable thing for me? What step can I take in the right direction on that path, right? And then you feel that measure of success, even if it's small.
Just so simple. Just something so simple. I was expecting like some pill he was going to throw at me, or, I make a list. What are you talking about? But you know what? That really absolutely did help. And now it didn't fix everything. There was still a lot of things that I need to get to the core of and realize, what was going on. But man, that really helped with part of it, the part of anxiety and I'm never going to get all this done. And yeah, and just make a list, that was something simple. And another one, like they ran tests, and I didn't even know they were running tests. I mean, I just thought they were talking and this and that. But they come back and they were like, hey, you know what your IQ is? And I was like, I don't really care, man. I'm here because I'm depressed and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, this makes sense because, like my old job in Benton Harbor at the radio station there was a prime example, and that's where that was coming from. He said that, your IQ is higher than theirs quite a bit. And so when you're trying to explain things to them, you expect them to understand what you're talking about because you think they're on the same level, but they're not. And that's when I realized that not all people are on the same level, and that's okay. And that's beautiful that we are not on the same level, because that would just be silly. But it really helped me kind of understand, and I'm not the smartest person in the world by far, not even close, but if I go into a room, the doctor said, and there's 100 people, then I'm going to be smarter than 80 of them. And it's like, okay, that's a little bit more than average, so I get it now. And the people at the radio station I worked at were really, really stupid. So, they were really bad, Lisa. So it makes total sense, the why I would get so frustrated, because they wouldn't get it. And I just thought, well, they've been in radio for as long as I have. They should be getting it, and they don't get it. And it was driving me mad. So, learning that we're not on the same playing field, and some people aren't going to get it. And you might be in a relationship with somebody, and this might make perfect sense to you, where you're always telling her, hey, do this, or you're always telling him to, hey, do this. And they're like, what? And it's not that they're stupid. Not at all. I'm not saying that people are stupid. Well, just the people at that radio station. But it just takes a minute, though, for some people to have things sink in. My girlfriend, she can move a house in a snap of a finger. Me, I'm going to be like, oh, let's look around. And, I was telling her about the kitchen. She's like, well, if I told you to pack up the kitchen, what would you do? I was like, ooh, probably get out a list. Start writing it down. Like, I don't know. And she's like, no, you got to move this, throw it in boxes, and get it done, And I'm like, yeah, my brain doesn't work that way,
Right.
It just
we
doesn't.
are all different. And that's important to recognize when we start talking about, recovery, whether it's from a mental health crisis or substance abuse or whatever. Each person is going to need to have something that's tailored specifically to them, because they are individuals. So, what works for one person doesn't work for another. You were able to process through using a list. For some people, it might be a chemical imbalance that requires, maybe a medication for a short term. And that's also why it's important to have a professional be able to take a look. You want to set yourself up for success. Just like in the recovery world, you trying to do something on your own versus having a team of people around you to support you, you're going to be so much more successful if you have that team of support. So being able to bring in the people who can give you the support you need is crucial. I mean, just having you to be able to reach out to if I have someone who might be struggling with a substance use issue, I value that so much. It's not something that is anywhere in my realm of expertise. So I love having a support team and having you as part of that to be able to reach out to connect people with. It's awesome. And that's how we need to embrace life. Nobody has to trudge through this alone. We are a team. That's how humans are meant to be. We're meant to interact and help support each other through things.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm so glad that I reached out to you, a year ago, or maybe it was, I don't remember exactly what day it was, but it was around a year ago maybe. And I'm so glad that we got to go through the trainings, and it's amazing.
I look forward to being able to get trainings going again. Definitely. It's so important.
Yeah, you couldn't really do those on Zoom, could you?
The ones that we do, Safe Talk and Assist, are not able to be done online because you want to make sure you're there to be able to provide support for those who need it and be able to really watch people's emotions to make sure that their safety is taken care of. But there is a training called START through livingworks.net, and it's about 90 minutes, and it's an online interactive training that an individual can go to. I think it's $20 right now to be able to do. So if someone wanted to get some tools, it's a really neat little starter training. And again, it's called START. And it gives you some great tools. And then when we're able to do the Safe Talk and the Assist, to get people to say, okay, now I've had that little bit. Now I want to learn more. Once we can resume those face-to-face trainings, it's a great option to get people going, to give them some tools.
Mm-hmm. You never know when you're going to need it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we just, right now, being able to reach out and call someone and just check in and say, hey, letting them know that they're connected is really important. But I also want people to remember, I've had some people reach out to me and say, well, none of my friends are calling me right now. And to be able to say to them, they might be really having a hard time adjusting to all of this as well. So maybe they could utilize you to reach out. They're like, oh, I never thought of that. For myself, I'm not someone who has struggled with anxiety or depression in the past. And I can tell you that the first couple weeks of this, I was in a real funk. Like, I'm pretty sure, I didn't have a diagnosed anxiety, but that's really what I felt like. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't concentrate. And I think it was really just from going at 90 miles an hour in my life at a normal pace and then having everything stop. I was having a real struggle. So, it's real. People are affected by this, but realizing that phone works two ways is really important. So me reaching out to others and say, hey, is anybody else feeling this way? Because I'm in this real funk, and having others say, yeah, it's really hard. I'm like, okay, great. Well, let's check in on each other every couple of days. And that was really helpful for me. And it got a little better as the weather started getting nicer and I could get outside and start thinking about self-care. But sometimes you need to jog your own memory of, what do I need to be doing to make sure that I'm doing okay? Okay, now that I'm doing that, how can I help somebody else do that? And probably I would think similar in the recovery world, not being able to go to those in-person meetings or whatnot. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's saying, hey, I'm going to check in with friends. And it might be making a list, because it sounds like you're good at those, and saying, maybe 3 days a week I'm going to call somebody, and this is who I'm going to call this day or that day, and just kind of see how they're doing.
Well, yeah, I had a list of people I want to interview, and you were on there, and I kept dodging me.
I wasn't intentionally doing that.
For months now. But yeah, I was like, all right, Lisa, you were like at the top, so I was like, all right, let's text her. And last week, and then you're like, hey, Tuesday. I'm like, okay. So then today I just texted, hey, it's next Tuesday. And so
and that flew by somehow. So I'm glad you messaged me today, and I was like, able to make this work, because it's really great to hear from you and connect and see how you're doing.
Yeah, I'm doing wonderful, and thanks for coming on. And Lisa, your website is kierstensride.org.
Correct. Yep. And, there's a list of the different resources on there, like we talked about, if someone might be struggling, to be able to reach out to those. A little bit about the trainings that we offer. On there is that Living Works website. So if somebody wanted to go on there and be able to look at the other trainings, as well as that START one that we talked about, they would be able to find that through our website as well. So there's some great great things that people can be looking at and doing. And we just really want to make sure everyone's taking care of themselves. That's definitely our goal during this time. And